We have kind of a special presentation tonight. It won't take but a few minutes, but it's really special, especially in light of the fact that we've now have Windy Hill Park. That belonged to the Sneed family, and a lot of people don't know the history behind it. And I'm not going to give it to you. I have people who are prepared to do that, but I wanted to preface my remarks by saying that we have good histories on the large homes, the old historic homes here in Brentwood. We can look at newspaper articles, family journals, deeds of sale, family Bibles, tombstones, and glean a lot of information about the people that lived in those homes. We don't have much information at all about those who worked the land. In the 1850s, the population of Williamson County was 54% African American. But the records are practically non-existent. We turn to our friends in Franklin a lot who have done a lot of research to help us with that. And since the purchase of Ravenswood, we can tell you all about the Wilson family, but we know very little about the enslaved people who occupied the cabins. Annetta Gaines and Kathy Greaves and Ashley McAnulty have been trying to assemble lists of names of people who might have lived there, and the same for the slave cabin on the Prim property, the former Prim property. We came across, and Kathy will fill you in, on a beautiful document, almost an autobiography of a lady that spent her entire life at Windy Hill Farm. And I will let them explain the circumstances of this lovely, lovely document that brought me to tears when I was reading it. And I told Annette, I said, I just can't read it. And she said, I think I can. So Kathy Greaves and Annetta Gaines. Kathy, will you start and give them a little historical background on this? You all know Kathy, our cemetery chairman.
Yes. And don't worry, there is a cemetery in the story.
Right, okay. There is.
There we go. I do have a document that you'll get at the end here that I gave out to the Historic Commission to kind of give them some information because I was quite excited about what I had. But I want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to share some updated history that we have found. I often tell the students that come to Boiling Spring Academy, my little third graders, we are talking about the prehistoric Native Americans, but I tell them history doesn't change, but our knowledge of it does. And the only way it can change is if we're out there looking for it and helping it grow and learning more of our story. So, again, as you'd expect, there's a cemetery in this story. In June, I was invited by the Sneed descendants. Their Cemetery Association board met, and we talked all things Sneed Cemetery. And one of the things that came up is there is a tombstone, and you'll see it on the right-hand side. It is obviously an African American. It's Black Mammy, Aunt Kitty Sneed. And we started talking to realize both of us, neither one knew a lot of information about Kitty, and that she is the only African American in the Sneed Cemetery of over 120 graves. And why is she there? And we know that outside of the area, that there was 5 or 6 field stones that are probably other African Americans, but we don't know about Kitty. So one of the Sneed descendants, Jenny Calvin and myself, started looking for information about Kitty Sneed. And I'm not going to bore you with all the census records and all of the wills, probate records, so many different types of records that we look through. But I can tell you that the information that you're receiving has a paper trail. It has documented evidence as we go. And one of the things that we found out in our initial looking was that Kitty Sneed is the picture that we have on the historic timeline on the Brentwood City website. And you will see her there on the left-hand side. She has not been identified. She's been a nameless individual representing the Hardscuffle community on the timeline. So it's time we learn about Kitty. So in our search, we found several children that we could associate back with Kitty. And from there, I contacted Tina Jones, who is in Franklin and runs a program called Slaves to Soldiers, and she helped with some military records for us. So we started accumulating a lot of different records. But we keep using the Sneed name with you all, so I just want to briefly refresh who the Sneeds are. James Sneed came from Virginia in the late 1790s. He purchased part of the Mayfield Grant on Old Smyrna Road, and he built Sneed Acres. Sneed Acres is unique because it still remains there. It's a cabin within the house, as well as it is still owned by Sneed descendants. And we have very, very few of those left at this point. So once he built that, he had, cheaper by the dozen, had a dozen children, but 3 of his sons he parceled off that property to. One of them, his oldest son, Constantine Perkins Sneed, he gave the adjacent property to Sneed Acres, and when Constantine built his house, he named it Windy Hill. And Windy Hill should be very familiar to all of you. Right across from Windy Hill, on the other side, on the north side of the road, they gave it to baby brother, Alexander. So Alexander built Foxview. Going down east a little bit on Old Smyrna Road, William received the 3rd parcel, and William built his house there, and it was incorporated into a house that later became known as Brentvale, which should be a name, again, you recognize in transition right now, as they say. So when James died, one thing that he did say in his will was that his slaves were to be sold to the highest bidder within the family. And Constantine, the oldest, did purchase Zachary Sneed, or just Zachary at that time, which becomes important. So the key people that are James and Constantine, and remember Zachary's name. And what that leads us up to is, in the military information, we found a deposition from Kitty Sneed. And I have to say, it is the most informative that I have seen. And I am going to ask Inetta to tell Kitty's story.
What the deposition was taken for, why she gave a deposition.
Are you going to include that?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, she's going
to cover it.
I can.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I do. Good evening, Mayor Gorman, Vice Mayor Travis, and City Commissioners. And I hope if you guys understand when your voice is quivering, it's like Cindy said, you're just excited and passionate about things. I get a little backstory on how we got to this is Commissioner Dunn shared in an email, we were talking about this wonderful find that Kathy had, and Commissioner Dunn said, man, I wish I could read that during my report. She said, but I don't think I would get through it. And I emailed her back and I said, it was extremely emotional to read it. But I told her I would do it, I would read it. So I'm gonna try to get through it. So it's a pension application in 1892. Mm-hmm. It was a request by her attorney, and her attorney said, the claimant is 87 years old, has lost the sight of one eye, and by reason of disease is helpless and depends upon charity for the necessaries of life, a proper case for special action. So that's how we get to this point. Okay. What Kathy did is, for clarity, like if you hear me say Brentwood or I give some names and stuff, Kathy put it in there so you can have a better understanding of timeline information, okay?
Kitty talks.
Yeah, she
Kitty doesn't use dates,
Right, yeah.
per se. She will tell you a year after the war or a year after some event. She places things in events. So, like, I have just placed Constantine's death and things like that with the actual date.
Yeah, so
Tombstone.
Yeah. So it was a pension application deposition of Kitty Sneed, 3 November 1892. I'm 87 years of age, no occupation at present, as am not physically able to work. I am the mother of Thomas Sneed, who served in Company C-15, Regiment USC Infantry, and who died after the war. I claim a pension in his dependent mother, as his dependent mother. When I was 15 years old, the traders brought me from North Carolina to near Brentwood, Williamson County, Tennessee, where I was sold to Constantine Sneed. I have resided within 1 mile of Brentwood, Tennessee, ever since I have lived in Tennessee. I come to Nashville occasionally and stay with my son, Ephraim Sneed, but my home is near Brentwood, Tennessee. I am at present staying with my son in Nashville. Constantine Sneed was the only master I had after I came to Tennessee. He died there, which was in Brentwood, weeks before the Battle of Franklin, Tennessee. So Constantine Sneed died 12th of August, 1864, and the Battle of Franklin was the 30th of November, 1864. She goes on to say, after my old master died, I stayed with his children until after the close of the year. My son, Thomas Sneed, had been discharged before I left my old master's family. So Tom Sneed was discharged April 7th of 1866. Mentions Constance Sneed's children, Agasari Ann Sneed, which is Agatha Ann Sneed, was married to William Bush. So she begins to talk about relations that she knew of. Cornelia Sneed, Joseph Sneed, they live near Brentwood. Sally Sneed married John Williams and lives about a half a mile from where Kitty resides. Mary Sneed Owen, who also lives near her. William Sneed lives about 2 miles from Brentwood, and that was actually from Kathy. Added that. So Kitty goes on to say, when I was about 19 years of age, I married Zachary Sneed, and I married him at my master's house. I was married by an old colored preacher named Bird Hightower, who is now dead. Zachary Sneed, my husband, was owned by James Sneed, my master's father. I had 14 children by Zachary Sneed, and their names were as follows: Jordan, Green, Ephraim, Mark, Seth, Thomas, John, and Jane. The other children died in infancy and were not named. I have only 3 children living: John, Seth, and Ephraim. The white folks took Seth off to Texas during the war, and I have not seen him since. I lived with Zachary Sneed as his wife from the time that I married him until he died. I cannot give the dates of his death, and I do not know the year that he died. I know that he died the first year that peace was declared, which was 1866. I know that he died before my son Thomas died, which is 1868, and there was just a year's difference between the dates of their deaths. Zachary died right near Brentwood. He died very suddenly and was found dead in the woods. He died about 30th October 1867. I do not know what the age of my son Thomas was when he enlisted, but I know that he was quite young. He was tall and slim. He was born right on the Sneed place near Brentwood, Tennessee. He worked on the Sneed farm before his enlistment, as he belonged to my old master. She then states that she is without any property, any income, and has nobody legally bound to support her. She further says that, quote, I am always sick. I have one eye, and I have such pains in my right thigh that the side of my lower limb is almost useless, unfitting to do washing or such labor as I might do. I have nothing but what was given me by kind friends among both white and colored. For even my clothes and food, I must depend on the favors of them, and are at the mercy of neighbors, being old and feeble, and depending upon charity for my help and support. That ends her statement. And what I wanted to say is, when Ann and I talked about it, I wanted to give voice to Miss Kitty Sneed, not because I'm Black, but because she was a human being. It wouldn't have mattered, just to give voice to those who were voiceless during that time. She could not read or write, so someone else was taking her deposition. This is a treasure for us to have. Kathy comes across some amazing finds. She does excellent work, and we're all grateful that she does that, because we can stand here and share that with you, with the public. So thank you very much.
I think we should point out that her pension was denied.
3 times. We don't know, said we don't know if she ever got it.
We don't think she did.
Yeah.
It's marked as a rejected. And the first time it was because he had a wife that he had married, and she was actually deceased by the time, but they found the marriage record. The second time, this time with this deposition, it was rejected because he died of TB and hemorrhagic lung, and it could not be proven that it occurred during the war itself.
Yeah.
But I did want to add one final thing, and that is out of the 8 children that are listed there that were living, we have found 6 of them, and we have found descendants of them. So this is an ongoing process, but we hope to find more. And
Thank you, ladies. And thank you all for allowing us to have this
Thank
time.
you for letting us share.
We just felt that a record of this kind is so rare. And we know you all are supportive of history and thought you would like to hear Kitty's story and know who this wonderful woman is who worked hard every day of her life and never traveled beyond that small circle that was Old Smyrna Road into Nashville. But it was very meaningful to me.